Hey guys, it's Sean and Tyler from the Board Assembly. Tyler's videos is not on because he is suffering from the big C, but we've been hearing a lot of buzz about how ChatGPT is gonna take over the world, and we thought to come up with a video walking you through how you can harness the power of ChatGPT with your Messenger chatbot. On top of that, we'll be showing you the use case of what we are personally doing and a nifty experiment me and Tyler are coming up with. Let's begin.
All right, hey guys. So like Sean said, the reason why I don't have my video on is just because I got the disease. So I'll be kind of walking you through this, kind of set everything up. So basically, you're going to need three things. You're going to need a ManyChat account that's pro. You're going to need a Chat GPT account that's in beta. So what that means is just beta.openai.com. So like an account with that. So it's not the normal Chat GPT that you're used to seeing, where you just have like a thread and you constantly type to it. It's a little bit different. It's more for devs. And then this other software you're going to need, which is called Make. Most people know it as Integromat. And those are the kind of three pieces you need to make this bot functional. So you can basically use uh, ChatGPT within Messenger/ManyChat. So let's go over the kind of setup process, assuming you have all three accounts. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is once you have all three accounts, you're going to want to go and create a scenario. That's what it's called in Make. You would go into your account. It'll look something like this, maybe not exactly like this, but more or less the same. And you would click a scenario. You don't actually need a paid plan with this. So that might be something worth mentioning. So you can actually just use the free plan for this to at least test it out. If you had multiple scenarios, you might need to have the paid plan in that case. So you're going to want to create a scenario. And the first thing you want to do is you want to click this and you want to find ManyChat as your first application. So first you got to type it in properly. Okay, there's ManyChat. Now you're going to be watching for incoming data, which is basically a webhook. And now you want to add a webhook. So in your case, you might even need to add a ManyChat account as well, right? Because in your case, you won't have one if you're doing this for the first time. So you want to create, you can name it right here to something special, but I'm not going to do that. So you want your access tokens. So your access tokens within ManyChat is pretty easy to find. You need to go into your settings. Once you're into your settings, you want to scroll down slightly into your API, and then you scroll up, and then you're going to generate a key. So in your case, you probably won't have a key here. And if you do, then you just want to copy paste it here. So you want to copy your key and then paste it over here and then hit save. Then it's going to connect and then you hit save. And there we go. Now we have our webhook right here. We hit OK. And we have to see what we named our webhook. So I didn't name it the best. I just named it my ManyChat webhook. So that's okay. That's fine. You might want to name it something a little bit better than that, but either way, let's go with that. So we're going to want to go into your bot right here. So just for reference here, there's going to be a template to install this bot right here. So you won't have to create all this by yourself. That'll be found in the description below. So once you have this template installed, you want to go into your Integromat action right here in the middle, click it, and then you want to connect your webhook. So I named mine my ManyChat webhook. Again, it's not the best name, but it's fine, it'll work. Now that I've connected it properly, we click publish. Now we need to actually see incoming data for the next application/node here. So what we want to do is we want to say run once, click that. It's going to kind of search. And now we need to trigger it. So we need to trigger this action. So what I'm going to do to trigger it is I'm going to preview the flow. You can either preview the flow like I'm about to do, or you can click this ref URL, which will preview the flow essentially the same way. So I click preview. And now it's going to push the conversation to me via my personal account. So if I go on my Facebook, it'll ask me, what is your question? I got kind of a chat log here because we've been doing quite a bit of recording here, a couple mess ups. So that's why it's made it so it asked it a couple times, even though it only asked it once. So I just said, Tyler, it doesn't really matter what you type in here. You just want to find the data that's coming in. So now we go back into our Integromat kind of action, and you'll see that it was successful. So it saw data coming in. You got the check mark here. You got a little one here saying like, oh, look, data came in. The bot will say like, oh, we weren't able to answer the question, but just ignore that for now. Next thing we want to do is find the other application, which is going to be OpenAI. And here it is right here. So click that. We want to go create a completion. Now, there are multiple things you can do here. The ones that worked really well for me were a completion here or generate an image. So if you wanted to make a bot that was about making images, so like maybe your question, instead of saying like, hey, what's your question? Say, hey, what kind of image are you looking for? And then you can make a bot that makes images. But in our case, we're going to go over here, which is just a completion. So this is usually just answers questions. Now we need to connect a ChatGPT account here. So in my case, I already have an account connected, but we're going to go and pretend like I don't. So we want to hit add, and we're looking for a key and then the organization ID. So let's go get the key first. And the key can be found in your kind of backend account. Again, there will be links to kind of setting up a make account as well as a beta.openai account as well. But what you do is when you're in the backend, you'll see kind of users and then keys, and you want to go create a new security key, create that. You want to copy this key, and then you want to punch in that information right here in the keys. And then you're going to need your organization ID. So this one here, you just get off this page and you go into your settings, and then your organization ID is right here. So we'll copy this, and then we're going to paste that right over here. And then we hit OK. Now it's going to do some loading, and then it's going to connect. Perfect. So now we've connected to the account. Now we need to use the model number. I'd like to use the newest version, which is DaVinci 3 right here. And then the prompt. So the prompt is actually the custom field, the input from the bot. So we're going to need to find it. You can type it up here, and then like it'll kind of find it a little bit for you. But every time I do it, always glitches out. So I tend to just find it manually. And the way you do that is usually you look at the bottom, because the bottom will always have the last custom fields you made. Now, hopefully in your account, you don't have as many custom fields because it'll be a lot easier to find. So let me just find it here. Just take a little second. Okay, I think I went too far. Like I said, this is a kind of a pain to do. It would be a lot easier if I could just use the search bar, but it always glitches for me. It's rare that it doesn't, because I think it's because I have too many to cycle through here. Okay, so I went to, here's custom fields. Okay. So I had to, if you didn't see that, I went a little fast there, but like there's custom fields and there's a little drop down. So I click this and it opened it all up. And I know my custom fields is like kind of at the bottom because I made these, I wouldn't say a long time ago, but I made them not the most recent. So here it is here, ChatGPT input. That's the one we're looking for. Maximum tokens, I usually just do 256, but this is basically is how much you're willing to pay for this being put in. So the lower the number, the less money you're willing to kind of pay because you're charged per token. And like the tokens are extremely cheap. You could put a lot more if you really wanted to. By default, what is just kind of in the playground, they just recommend kind of 256 right here. So that's why I put that in. But like you can have your, 4,000 as a maximum, just for example's sake. But 250 worked pretty good, so I usually keep it that. Temperature is just how creative the bot will be. So I just do 0.7. But if you wanted to make it very creative, you could put it to 1. If you wanted to make it like very kind of stern, you could just try to have it like 0.01. But in my case, I'm going to put a 7 here just to be default. Top, you put 1 here and you put 1 here. These two kind of settings don't change a whole lot. But if you really want to see what they do, you could just kind of read the descriptions here, and you can kind of play in the playground as well. If you really wanted to play with these settings. But from our testing, they didn't change anything really significant. So we leave those be. And that's it. So now we got this done. The next thing we want to do is we want to go back into ManyChat and update a user field, custom field, I should say. So we want to update a custom field, and we want to, the connection is example test. So if you remember at the earlier stages, we went actually to my ManyChat connection, right? Because that's what the ManyChat account here is. Anyway, so we're going to use the same connection, even though they're the same accounts. Just yeah. So now we need the user ID. So this needs to be the same user ID from the webhook. So we just want to go into see subscriber, and then you see user ID right here, or ID. Click that, and then the field. Sorry. So this is basically the field that you want to paste the information from ChatGPT, so the output. So we're going to go output, and you'll see here that I like, because the search bar works in this setting, you can see that it was much easier to find. So we just go ChatGPT output, and then the value. So what is it going to return? And the return is going to be choice, and then text right here. And this is basically the output from ChatGPT once they get the input. And then we'll hit OK. And now we want to run through this to see, does it work? So I'm going to click this just to run through it once. And now we're going to test the flow again. So we're going to hit preview. I technically didn't need to hit preview again. I could have just went over here and clicked the button saying ask a new question. So I'll say, what is your name? I could have put a question mark at the end, but I think the bot will recognize that. Then we'll see ChatGPT instantly kind of figured out all three things, right? So we saw that it's loading still, but it kind of loaded everything. You might be wondering, okay, well then why didn't the bot respond right away? The reasoning why is because the logic right here is to wait at least 10 seconds before doing something new. It'll check to see right away immediately, and then, okay, it has no value, wait 10 seconds, goes back into a condition, okay, no value, waits 10 seconds, and then it'll go through this last condition here, then giving you an error message. In our case, your name. So it basically answered the question with like almost like a question, which is a little funny. But that's what ChatGPT came back with. And I perhaps could have made it a little bit of a better one. So if I wanted to ask something different, let's go, what is your name with a question mark here? This time I'll add a question mark, and we'll see if it responds something a little bit more unique. And I forgot to click run again here, so that's why it's probably not going to work. So new. Okay, so let's try that again. It's going to respond with the error because this got turned off. So I guess this is kind of a good thing that I showed this just so you could see what it'll look like when it doesn't work. And like I said, it'll take a while. See, sorry, we weren't able to answer your question. So let's do this again. I'm just kind of preloading the question here because I already know the bot's going to ask for it. Now it's going through, and then it went through. You can see right here, everything went through. And let's see if it gives us a little bit more of a creative solution here. Last time it answered like, oh, my name's Jason. So I'm curious to see if that'll happen again. Okay, so my name's Anthony. Okay, funny enough. So there you go. We got a better answer here. I think it's because I added the question mark at the end. So now that we've got this working like fully, we want to hit run, like our schedule on. So like this scenario will be on constantly, and I don't have to constantly click like run once. So we go this, and we go process existing. So basically, this will now continuously run. So if somebody was to go into your bot, it would answer the question. And that is how you essentially set up this bot right here. There's quite a bit of finagling, but once you get all the accounts made and you've connected them to one another, it's fairly simple to play with this. And then you can go into some more creative aspects that like maybe Sean and I will go through a little bit right here. So what I'll do is I'll just save changes. And in our Disney bot, we actually, I'll just show you what we ended up doing. We actually like gave it a prompt, and like you can give it examples and different kind of text here to give it some parameters on what it should be saying.
Right, so it's gonna make a lot of more sense in a bit, but I hope that you guys got some value out of that. I know that we have also got a question asking on whether it has limits on when we are calling the API and if it's restricted by high demand times. Tyler, do you want to answer that as well as briefly go through the pricing that we're paying at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So basically pricing like is insanely cheap right now. I'm sure that'll probably change in the future, but you're priced, like I said in earlier in the video, by tokens, and the tokens themselves are crazy cheap. But once you have this kind of back end here, you can actually go and see their pricing. So if we click here, we could see like for images, it's basically 2 cents per image, depending on the size of the image. And then for large kind of tokens, when you're answering questions, 1,000 tokens is not even a penny. It's like 0.004, which is just crazy low. And our token maximum, if you remember at the start of the video, we did 256. So it would take us, 5 different tries just to get to 1,000 tokens. And that's assuming that we go to the maximum amount of tokens, which it probably wouldn't use the maximum amount of tokens. Depending on the question, obviously, if you ask it a complex question, it might exceed the maximum amount of tokens there. So you can kind of see that like this is very, very cheap. Um, DaVinci uses the most here. So like if these are the different kind of bots, and this DaVinci is what we were using. So in our case, it would be like 2 cents per 1,000 tokens, but it's 2 cents, so it's really, really cheap. So
Right, and as to whether it has limits on when we are calling the API, for us personally, we have not faced any issues, but like you guys know, ChatGPT is very much in the beta phase, so these things might change. All right, so now let's get to the high level overview. If you're here solely for the technicals on connecting and all that jazz, feel free to skip this part of the video. The reason why we hooked up ChatGPT to a bot is because Tyler and I came up with a challenge for ourselves 3 weeks back. So what if we put our spin on what we would personally build if big brands like Disney, Colgate, or Netflix hired us? Our first bot was actually for the happiest place on earth, Disney. So our goal here for the bot was to simplify ride selection, to introduce its restaurants, as well as make navigation a breeze. So I'm going to be giving you a brief run through and then showing you a video after. So we're going to be starting with the brief run through. So how it would work is for a giant scan me sign to be placed outside the gates of Disneyland. So this would allow our park workers to prompt the visitors to scan and give them a brief rundown of what to expect. Upon scanning, they would get a brief introduction by Elsa, which is essentially what we are training ChatGPT to do, to give responses in Elsa's tone of voice, the ability to pick what to do, as well as immediate conditioning on what they can and cannot do. This is very important, especially when you're running any Messenger or Instagram funnels, because you need to prime the customer to teach them, like, this is what you can do and this is what you can't do. And this would really reduce the amount of frustration they would have when going through the bot. So if the visitor picks attractions, they will be able to pick between rides, shows, and interactive exhibits. And it also is able to get the bot to suggest a ride for them. And this is actually dynamically pulled because depending on their input, they would get a different output. So for example, if dining is picked, you'll be able to see a short introduction options available as well as directions. And as for ChatGPT, we've hooked it up with the bot so that visitors are able to see it, ask it questions in real time, brother. So I'm just going to do a quick screen share here, and you guys should be able to see my screen. So this is actually the bot in action. And that's pretty much it. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Tyler, and we will have our Facebook as well as Twitter links below. You can also check us out over at thebotassembly.com. The template that Tyler mentioned would also be in the description below. And yeah, that's it. Bye.